When you came to power in 1986, you were hailed as a hero. You liberated the struggle from civil war, stabilized the country, modernized it, you made progressive AIDS policies, but put women in leadership positions and established a proud constitution that was later changed by your instigation so that you could continue the rule. You turned from a Marxist to a faithful evangelist, from a freedom fighter, as some say, I'm quoting, to a dictator. Some call you an autocrat. What happened?
Well, those people don't know our position in the world. They don't know. They are just talking about things they don't know. As you can see, Africa is a very rich continent, but we had a number of problems. One of them was a small population in a huge continent. Remember, Africa is about 12 times the size of India. You can fit India into Africa 12 times, and it will fit there. However, even today, the population of Africa is slightly smaller than the population of India. So that small population in a huge and rich continent has implications for the psychology of the population. The population takes things easy. They're a bit relaxed, a bit laid back. I think that's what they call it in English. They're a bit laid back. So we need to wake them up, to wake up that population. Because by 1969, only 4% of the population of Uganda were working for money. The rest were working for just eating. They call it subsistence farming. You work only to eat, not to earn money. So, by 1969, only 4% of the people were working for money. What you would call in modern terms part of the monetary GDP. 96% were part of what they call non-monetary GDP. So the situation has changed a little bit now. In 2014, the people who were in the money economy were 32% of the population. 68% are still outside the money economy. Why? Because here, a fool can survive. Fools don't die here. In Europe, fools die. If you are very foolish, you die and the matter is resolved. But here, there is a lot of work to cause socio-economic transformation, socio-economic change of the society. So that's one. Now, this is a lot of work. It's not work for just coming in 5 years and then you think you will make impact. So, secondly, the question is, now by 2014, 32% of our people had woken up. They were producing for the stomach, but also for the pocket. eating and money and cash. Now, with that limited waking up, already we have a big surplus. Our problem now is not shortage, it is surplus. Surplus of sugar, surplus of milk, surplus of maize, surplus of bananas, surplus of cement, surplus of industrial products, so many. So now then that brings us to the question, which Bismarck solved for you in 1871 when he united the German kingdoms. You remember there were 39 kingdoms, Prussia, Bavaria, and so on. Now, because of the Prussian Junkers, who had a lot of products, but which had no market, because Germany was, just like Africa today, fragmented. The market is fragmented. We need to unite the market of Africa.
These people now do not only ask for food, they also ask for freedom and justice. These people now, who you helped out from the very basic life.
No, let me first finish this point. You see, so because of that, we have got very serious historical bottlenecks that must be handled by all available manpower. If the people want, if the people agree, then it is correct that everybody available contributes. But if we go to just, they call it in what English, they call it schematic, just appearing as if we are in a theater. Scene 1, you go. Scene 2, you come. We are not in a theater, we are in a real serious struggle to transform Africa. So that's why we want everybody available if the people want.
So you're trying to say because there's so much work that has to be done, you sometimes need a strong hand, and that's what some confuse as authoritarian, or is that the message?
There's so much work to be done. Let everybody be available to be recruited democratically, so that if they want a strong man, you get him. If you want a soft one, he's also available. Because what you have in some of the countries, you block choice of people. Why do you block choice of people? Let them choose. If they want an old fellow, he's available. If they want a new one, he's available. So there's no problem.
You know, I'm 35 years old, so I'm as old as you are in power. So you're like, I'm very impressed. You're working very long for your country, and we were asking ourselves, what is driving you, and aren't you getting tired of governing a country for so long? Merkel, for example, says, now I'm in power for 16 years, I'm getting tired, so I quit. But you double that, so what's behind that? Is it just like the power that drives you, or what is it?
Well, you are reducing my years. I have been in the struggle for 60 years, not 35. This 35 you are talking of yesterday. But I was in the resistance and in the struggle. For us, we call it struggle. for 60 years. Since 1960, I have been in the struggle.
Mr. President,
Student movement, liberation struggle, now in government. For us, it is the same. It is the continuous struggle.
Mr. President, you are the president of this country since 35 years, and one could also ask, can you just not let go power? Can you just not let go power?
I have no problem with power, but I've told you that we have got problems to solve. And these problems need, in our opinion, they need everybody available. So periodically, every 5 years, we ask the people. We have covered some distance, but there's more distance to go. Who do you think can help you to move forward? Do you want a new one or an old one? The people say what they want. So don't look at, you see the problem, I think, where you confuse yourselves, is that you concentrate so much on the who and you don't look on the what. The what is to be done. So if you can understand, because you in Europe, what you need to do is totally different from us here. Because in Europe, since the time of Adam Smith, when he wrote the analysis of capitalism, things are a bit clear. So what is to be done is more or less clear. What is to be done in Europe? Private sector-led growth. Now, the who is not as important for you as it is here, because for us here, if you make, because the what is very serious, if you make a mistake on the who, you can end up with a very bad situation, as you have seen in some of these countries, Somalia, Central African Republic.
So you are of the opinion that if somebody else is running the country and it's possibly falling into the hands of a young, unexperienced pop star who is challenging you and who has vitalized the crowd of the youth, that this could lead to instability in...
Absolutely. The risks here are much higher than in Europe.
But at the end of the day, this is a democracy, and supporters of this opposition candidate, we can talk about him later, what kind of person he is, were intimidated, arrested, even killed before the election in January 14th, and the internet has been largely paralyzed. Many measures have been taken to keep them in check. Is a fair election possible under such condition?
The democracy means choice, and there's choice here. About being arrested, it was because he was breaking the law, but also endangering our society, endangering our people, because we campaigned with the scientific, we were calling it scientific campaigning during the time of Corona. We were not allowing big gatherings. And other politicians some of the politicians were observing what we call the SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. One of those candidates refused and said for him he's not concerned. That's why he was in conflict with the law.
During the election, you campaigned with the slogan, "Securing the Future," and praised Uganda as the country with the 5th fastest growing economy in the world. Practically, you're governing one of the countries with the youngest population and the highest youth employment without any significant industries, which we can come to later. How do you want to make Uganda fit for the future?
Well, when we started, we had 8 factories. We have now got 5,000. These are factories. The services companies have many more. So we are definitely going to, the youth population is not a problem for us. The problem is the market. This is the one we are working on. The market of our products. But the youth will get jobs because the sectors are 4. There is commercial agriculture, there is industries, there is services, transport, banks, and so on, and ICT. These 4 will absorb our people. Our struggle is the market, market to sell what we produce.
Okay.
But there's 80% right now working in the informal sector. Isn't that like a sign that there is no very sustainable economic model when you have so many people out of the formal sector not paying taxes as well?
No, all those can go to formal. You are right. This is what I was telling you. In fact, you are using the wrong word. You are using the word informal sector, but much of the economy is actually pre-capitalist. This is part of the problem of Africa, which of course you don't know. My father was not part of the capitalist system. He was part of the traditional African way, where you just produce, you eat, you don't sell. That's what I was telling you, that 68% are part of what you call subsistence economy, which is like traditional economy. Now our struggle is to convert the traditional people into the modern money economy. And when we do it, the challenge is not, the challenge, we used to have a number of challenges. One was electricity, but now we have got enough electricity. Transport costs, the cost of money, all these we are working on, and we shall put in more money. So the actual challenge is the market of what once they come to the money economy, where do you sell their products? That's what I was telling you. That in this part of the world, one of the big struggle is to unite our market, the African market.
But how do you get there? How do you get people out of these informal sectors? Because obviously you're trying for quite some time.
By negotiating with other African countries. Negotiating with other, because there are 3 ways we shall solve the issue of market. This is actually the big problem. There are 2 problems. One problem is, what do you call sleeping in German? Sleeping, when people sleeping. Schlafen. The big problem of Africa is schlafen, number 1.
Sind zu faul.
Okay, go ahead.
Big problem number 1 of Africa, including Uganda, has been schlafen. Now, when you work them up and they start producing, the next problem is, where do you sell what they produce? There are 3 ways we are tackling this. Number 1 is regional integration, Africa. Number two, when the purchasing power of here goes up, then they will buy more. The purchasing power, the internal purchasing, my purchasing power to go up so that I can buy more. Then the third one is working with third parties like Europe, like China, to access their markets. So, number one, wake up people.
Nobody expects that ruling this country is an easy task. At the same time, listening to people in Uganda, you hear on and on that people believe or claim that people near to you and people in the army or connected with the army would hold a kind of monopoly on several industry goods like sugarcane, timber, gold, silver, maybe weapons, something. So they control the market and they control the price. So this is what people tell. And in Transparency International's anti-corruption ranking, Uganda recently slipped from among 180 countries from place or rank 137 to 142. Why is that, and how big is the felt in your immediate environment?
The one of my people near me controlling factories, controlling companies is absolute rubbish. It's not true. Because I think there is one of my children who has got a factory of milk, one. The one I know, only one. These factories, unless they say my relatives are Chinese, you must have seen some of my Chinese relatives.
Not yet.
You can go around and many of these factories here are owned by Chinese, so those must be my relatives. By Indians, they must be my relatives. By Arabs, of course, the Europeans are quite lazy. They don't come to Africa, so they don't know the situation here.
How do you explain this ranking, this Transparency International ranking that measures corruption and that places you at the very end of the list?
You can if you have time, you can talk to our anti-corruption group. They can tell you what they are doing, how they are struggling. If you have time, they can talk to you. It's much better if they talk to you, because I am the one who sets up all those anti-corruption groups.
So you would say it's again another foreign misunderstanding, this sort of ranking that's coming from Transparency International?
No, there is corruption. There is corruption, but it will be defeated. It will be defeated like we have defeated so many problems. There is corruption. And when you talk with those people, they can tell you what is being done. But it is defeatable. It's not insurmountable.
People would confirm that you are in the march.
Because if the corruption was so unmanageable, how is it that our economy is growing very fast? Why? Economy cannot grow if you have got so much corruption that it undermines profitability of companies.
There are some people now who would consider Uganda as a military democracy. Because of that reason, a military democracy. Would you agree to that?
Not at all. It's not a military democracy. It is one of the most democratic countries in the world. And if you want, I can challenge you. You know, for us, we are polite people. We don't lecture people. It is the Europeans who have got the bad habit of lecturing an experienced man like me. You find I'm getting lectures from novices. But if you look at our democracy, it is one of the most advanced. We have got so many elections. Now we are having elections for youth, for women, for disabled people. You don't have those in your country. You have got only a member of parliament for constituency. So I can say that your democracy is shallow, but that's your own business. Ours is very, very, very broad democracy. We have got special seats for women. You don't have those seats. We have special seats for women. That's why we have got now 146 women with their special seats after the constituency where the women compete, but we give them an additional share of reserved seats only for women, district by district. But this is our own experience. We don't want to impose it on other people. So if the other people could also be a bit polite and just know that we know what we are doing, it will be good for everybody.
Given what you just said, do you by now prefer other governments like the Chinese or some Arabic countries over the Europeans because they are lecturing less and they just do stuff?
We don't prefer, but they don't waste our time, for sure, that's for sure. They don't waste our time, because to have somebody telling me something which I know better, and out of politeness I need to listen, to talk, to answer, instead of saying, go to hell, and I walk out. Of course, we waste a lot of time. The Chinese waste less of our time, for sure. They come on business, a road, a factory, to buy something. Management of our affairs is ours. They don't interfere in ours, we don't interfere in theirs.
As you're such an experienced leader, if you look throughout the last years, maybe even decades, do you see that there is some sort of change, that the role of China in Africa, not only in Uganda but in Africa, is growing, and that Western powers, the Europeans, the Americans, are rather disappearing, or how do you observe the situation?
The problem we have is superficiality. Do you have that word in English? Superficial. Mm-hmm. The Western political leaders and thinkers are very superficial. It's just really tiresome, very superficial. You see, when the communists, I can give you some little history. I will not charge you. I will not charge you money. This is for free.
Thank you very much.
When the communists took over China in 1949, we were colonies. The whole of Africa was colonies. Not colonies of China or Russia, colonies of Europeans. Europeans are the ones who had colonized us. So when Mao Zedong took over in 1949, immediately he gave us support to kick your cousins out. For you, the Germans, you had already been kicked out by your cousins, but your cousins were still here. So Mao Zedong, we shall never forget Mao Zedong. because he gave us support immediately. In 1917, when Lenin took over Russia, again we got support from the communists. The first African liberation movement was formed in 1911. Was it 11 or 12? This is the ANC of South Africa. So when the communists take over Russia, they support us. Support us against who? Against Europeans. Who had done what? Who had colonized our country. And who had ravaged Africa with slave trade for centuries. We got support from the communists. 1917, Lenin and Stalin and those people. And then 1949, Mao Zedong comes. We got support from the communist camp. And that's how we kick out the Europeans. Kick them out of, some of them went away peacefully, like the British left here peacefully, but not before the Mau Mau. There was Mau Mau in Kenya. By 1963, 36 African countries were independent. But there was another 20 which was still under European colonialism. This included Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Ian Smith, a character called Ian Smith, was in Zimbabwe, Rhodesia. Then we had Namibia. Then we had South Africa itself. So by 1963, a part of Africa is independent, a part is still colonized. So the African countries tell the Europeans, go away from the remaining part of Africa. If you don't go peacefully, we shall throw you out by force. They thought we were joking. The Chinese supported us, and the Russians. We kicked the Portuguese out of Mozambique. We kicked them out of Angola. We kicked them out of Guinea-Bissau. We even liberated Portugal itself from fascism. Wait, let me tell you. This is a free lesson of history. No tuition. You don't have to pay tuition. So, this is the history of Africa and China. It's not a new history. Even when China was still very low in terms of economic development, but because of ideological, they supported us.
So you say China? Just hold on. So now that China has become a richer country, they have now upscaled their. Maybe I can give you some example. In 1964, Zhou Enlai, the Prime Minister of China that time, visited Tanzania, your former colony, and pledged to build a railway line from Tanzania up to Zambia. It was called Tazara. And they built it. They built it. They were still backward economically. They were not very, very, very rich, but they built it, the Chinese. So now that they are much richer, they are upscaling our cooperation with them, which was originally political, diplomatic. Of course, we were also supporting China in the UN, because the Western countries had kept China out of the UN, out of the Security Council.
So we were supporting them to come to the Security Council. So therefore, the cooperation between China and even Russia with Africa is not new at all. It is historical. It started with the anti-colonial struggle. Now it has blossomed into economic cooperation. But you hear the question you're asking, it means you don't know the history of Africa. You don't know that we have been working with the Chinese all this time. You think that we have just started. We haven't.
So, but when I understand you right, you feel like China in some way is a more sincere partner than the Europeans. They have been better friends in the past.
At least for now. At least for now. They may change also. They may change and become parasitic. But for now, they have been sincere because they were helping us, even when we were not giving them anything in return. That time. But I think maybe they were hoping for friends, and we are now friends.
Because some would say the Chinese are now the new colonial rulers and they exploit Africa for their own purpose.
No, not at all. If they become that, then they will be hated like you people, you were hated, we had to throw you out. If they become that, and that's why we need to strengthen. It's true, the Chinese can change. They can become also another another hegemonic power. That's why we need to strengthen ourselves to build a united Africa, to build the common market of Africa, to build even the political integration of Africa, of some parts of Africa, so that Africa is not a low pressure area, an area where there is a vacuum of power. We need power here.
Because at the moment, like the region, the stability is very, very fragile. If you look at the neighbors of Uganda, it's quite difficult. Congo is in trouble. You have South Sudan is in trouble.
And that's
how much is there a threat to your country as well, and how much does it worry you that there is so much unrest in your neighborhood?
Of course, that's why we say that unrest is there. We know why. I have told you the history of Uganda, how for the last 60 years we have been involved in building capacity, which we have now. That's why Uganda is peaceful. And that's why we can subdue any challenge. And slowly, new forces will coalesce in Africa, which will create a center of gravity for Africa. Africa needs a center of gravity. We don't have a center of gravity now. This is part of the problem. In Europe, you have got some small countries, like Denmark, like Belgium and so on, Luxembourg. But the whole Western civilization has got a center of gravity in the United States. The United States is the center of gravity of the Western system. What is our center of gravity? It must be created. It must be created. We cannot sit here and remain a perpetual vacuum. I think you use the word vacuum when there is emptiness. Yes, a vacuum point on the globe. When there is no local power, everybody is coming. You are now worried about Chinese coming here. Why will they come? Because we are weak. That must be sorted out.
Where do you see this center of gravity in the future?
You keep tuned. You will hear about it.
We'll sit right here.
I don't know where it will be, but since you are a news hunter, you may get it one day. Africa must have a center of gravity. And if you were good friends, you would be working for that, not for small things, this one here, this small here. No. Because that's not what Africa lacks. Africa lacks a center of gravity. Africa needs to undergo socio-economic transformation. We need to be the middle class here, a middle class. Africa must become a middle class society, skilled working class society.
I'm a bit surprised that you're so critical about the West, the Europeans and the Americans. I mean, nonetheless, they give billions of euro to Uganda, billions of dollars, if I'm not mistaken. So isn't that something that should be appreciated?
Are you a Christian?
Yes.
Have you heard of the story of Esau?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
There is Esau, the one who sold his birthright in exchange for food. I'm not Esau to sell my birthright in exchange for food. Esau was a brother of Jacob, and he sold his birthright for food. You show him the quotation in the Bible about Esau. It will help him.
It's a nice metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
You were telling us that this is a continuous struggle since 60 years, and surely it will go on because things are not getting easier over the course of time. Not for now. And as we most likely believe, you can unfortunately not clone yourself. So possibly there one day, latest in 2035, there will be another leader. So who would you wish to be your successor, and what do you wish this person to do?
Well, that is a settled question, because the Constitution of Uganda shows how leaders are elected. Member of Parliament is elected like this. District chairman is elected like this. President is elected like this. So we are not short of how to get a leader. The only thing would be in the contest of ideas, to get leaders who will continue the line of our movement. Because our line, our movement, believes in 4 principles: patriotism. That means we don't believe in sectarianism. We believe in unity of the people of Uganda. Pan-Africanism. We believe in Pan-Africanism. Like Bismarck was part of the Pan-German movement. Pan-German, that movement.
Is there anybody you see who has the potential to follow you?
Let me first finish the principles. The Bismarck, his Pan-Germanism was in conflict with the French, who wanted to keep German divided. That's how you had the War of 1870, the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. So our principle number 3 is socio-economic transformation. What you are talking about, what you call informal sector, must change, must be fully monetized. And then democracy. Democracy is number 4 in our principles. So therefore, the one whom I would want to succeed me would be the one who follows those principles. And we shall struggle for it politically by convincing our people that our candidate is better than the other candidates. So that method of how to choose leaders is in place. It's not a problem at all.
Do you have anybody in particular in mind?
Not
Perhaps,
at all.
perhaps
Not
your
at all.
son?
Not at all. My people know all the cadres, all our people know the leaders we have, and they'll select the one who is suitable.
I was reading this quote of you the other day, and also Amanpour on CNN quoted you with a sentence you once said, that the problem in Africa, the biggest problem is that many of the rulers are in power for too long. And now you are here for
too long without elections, without competition. If you compete and you win, what is the problem? Because the people are there. Some of your leaders stayed for some time. Chancellor Adenauer, I don't know how many times he was around. Chancellor Adenauer.
3 times?
2 times. He was old.
Willy Brandt.
2 times.
Helmut Kohl was the longest governing chancellor, and he was in power for 16 years, so that's not even half of... Yeah.
But you don't have term limits in Germany. You don't have term limits.
We don't.
Yes. So what is the problem? The people will decide.
So as long as you say as long as there are elections, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, because we have got real serious issues.